Right, it's 6:30. Let's call tonight's monthly meeting of the Tifton Community School Board to order. I've asked Mrs. Sloan to lead us all in the pledge, so if you would, please stand.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of tonight's consent agenda items, which is the approval of tonight's agenda, the approval of minutes from the regular session on February 8th, 2022, approval of claims, payroll claim February 18th, 2022, payroll claim of March the 4th, 2022, accounts payable of claims for March, the personnel report, which I will read after this approval, approval of a couple of overnight and out-of-state field trips, the THS livestock judging team to Joliet, Illinois, April 9th and 10th, a THS FFA livestock judging team to East Peoria, Illinois on April the 16th and 17th. Need a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda items. A second. We have a motion and a second. Approve tonight's consent agenda items. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. The March personnel report is certified staff, Sherry Cottingham, third grade teacher. Oh, Conaway. Sherry Conaway. Sorry about that. With 36 years of service at Tifton Elementary School, a reassignment of duties for Lori Rail, Tifton Elementary Principal, to reading intervention at Tifton High School. Recommendation of Jessica Nelson, first grade teacher at Tifton Elementary School, effective February 10th. As classified staff, we have resignation of Sam Phillips as Corporation Athletic Secretary, Heather Malik, recess assistant at the Tifton Middle School. Recommendation of Randy Carlisle, bus driver trainer, Scott Wessel, studies table bus driver, Scott Bennington, Corporation Athletic Secretary, Julie Wessner, library assistant at Tifton High School, Tristan Comer, Corporation Permanent Substitute. On ECA staff, we have resignation of Nicole Clifford, middle school cheerleading coach, Sam Phillips, assistant track coach at the high school, Aaron Shockley, girls JV softball coach at the high school, Grant Yoder, boys JV baseball coach at the high school, and recommendation of Morgan Dozel, girls varsity tennis coach at Tifton High School, Megan Zapst, girls JV softball coach at Tifton High School, Andy Hassan, boys JV baseball coach at Tifton High School, and Steve Cherry, volunteer baseball coach at Tifton High School. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. So Dr. Glaze.
Thank you, Gary. First of all, we wanted to honor our two girls basketball players who were in the 1,000 points club, which is pretty darn awesome. So I'm not sure if they're here, but Ashley Schramm and Ella Wolf, you are here. Doesn't look like they're here, but the Wetzes are here. Thank you for coming. But anyway, we will make sure we get those certificates to them, and that way we can honor them properly. We also want to congratulate Eli McGuire. He won the 1A, 2A Indiana Wrestling Coach Association 126-pound state championship. So that's great. Congratulations to him. We also want to congratulate Lydia Klauser, Abby Riddle, Lennon Sherrard, and Alex Tebe for gold ratings at state solo and ensemble contest, which is fabulous. And also want to congratulate Hannah Henderson for a gold with distinction at the state vocal and piano solo and ensemble contest. I did want to talk about FFA week, and it's a great week because I get pie. So any week that I get pie is like a great thing. So anyway, it's awesome week, and really enjoyed how organized it was, and really just what a great week it was. Had a lot of positive comments about the FFA breakfast, and again, just kind of the way that the organization is operating. And so just lots of positives there. And we finished it out with the petting zoo a week late because we had a delay, but it all worked out well. And so anyway, great FFA week, and congratulations to the sponsors and students for doing such a great job. This is just for the board. I know you're all excited about this, but we do have a whole bunch of board policy updates. I've been holding out on you. So I'm going to give those to you early so you have a chance to look at them before the first reading in April. So I'm about midway through them. So anyway, yeah, I know it's exciting. It's exciting stuff. Did want to just let you know that the Tifton Middle School looking at a Washington D.C. trip for the spring of 2023, and just kind of share how excited we are that we're actually talking about trips again. So that's a pretty awesome thing, and so we're excited about that. Just kind of giving you some general information about that, and then we will ask for your approval probably sometime early next year for that trip once we get prices and ideas of where they're going to go and cost and everything. We do have the BZA meeting tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, and that is for the rezoning, the variance for our parking lot, student parking lot. So that will be at 6 o'clock, and we've sent out all the certified letters to all the neighbors and have the receipts and all of that fun business. We'll make sure that all of that's taken care of, and hopefully we will get some really good news there. Congratulations to our boys basketball for winning the sectional. Very, very nice job. Well done. And then just kind of to let you know, one of the new things that I am going to do is something called Out of the Blue podcast. And that's where I'm going to interview graduates of Tifton and just kind of talk to them about, what they're doing with life. And we've got some pretty awesome alumni, and just want to talk to them about the, how Tifton prepared them and how living in Tifton, made a difference in their lives. So that's going to be rolling out here in the next couple of weeks. And then I did share with you the fill rates from WillSub to show you that we are definitely having a much higher fill rate since we've increased our pay. So that's been a very positive change for us. And so once again, thank you for doing that. And that has made a difference. And that certainly is something that makes us all breathe a little easier. And I also wanted to take this opportunity to read, we don't often get an exemplary behavior report, and we're excited to be able to get that exemplary behavior report. And this came from the IHSAA, and so anyway, what they said was, what a great game. This group of young men played harder than any team I've seen play this year. Big basket after big basket with zero complaints as to how the game was being officiated. The coaching staff approached us with nothing short of the best in professionalism and sportsmanship. This was a great game. A great game. You hated to see either team lose. I would have to agree on that one. That was a really good game. Well done, gentlemen. I would work for this group of young men and coaches anywhere, anytime. Thank you for making the sectional one of the best ever. And that came that's from the officials. So which is a pretty cool thing. And we don't often get those kudos. And I will tell you that the superintendent at Madison Grant, he and I know one another, and he's just like, we're always happy when Tifton is the host, because we know the hospitality room is good and it's going to be organized. So that's good, and a credit to Corey and Corey's staff for doing such an awesome job, and once again to be able to get something positive is always a great thing. So
All right, thank you. Next up is Spotlight on Schools, and Mr. Jaworski, Director of Student Achievement and Learning, has a presentation for us.
Yeah, so couple pieces of data information to share with everybody. We got two things we're going to talk about today is our Review 360 Universal Screener and our COGAT testing. So starting with the Review 360, again, Review 360 is a behavior assessment system for children. It's basically our behavioral and emotional screening system. Essentially, it serves as a way for our schools to identify students who are demonstrating behaviors or experiencing trauma. It flags those students so we can use both resources within our schools and our community partners to support those students. If you want me to speak to the data specifically, I can do that just from a real overview perspective. We had about 582 students complete the screener in the elementary. Of the 582, 482 or 83% registered as a normal risk on the behavioral and emotional index. 54 or 9% of students were flagged for an elevated risk, and 46 or 8% of our students in the elementary were identified at an extremely elevated risk. For the middle school, we had 293 students complete that screener. 183 or 62% of them registered as normal risk. 57 or 19% of students were flagged for that elevated risk, and then 53 or 18% of the students were identified at extremely elevated risk. And then finally, for the high school, only 15 students completed the screener. Again, 8 students registered as normal, 4 students were flagged for elevated risk, and 3 were identified at an extremely elevated risk. So just, again, a couple disclaimers on all that, all those numbers. First off, the screener is administered just once a year. This year was administered between January and February. So students who might be having a bad day can pop up on this when normally they wouldn't. And then not all of our students, again, are required to take the screener. Again, parents can opt out in K through 8. And as you can tell by the numbers in high school, students could choose whether they wanted to take it or not. And again, we only had 15 students at the high school take the screener. So what happens with this data? Essentially, data is available for administration and staff as needed. It's just a single data point. Again, that's used in conjunction with some historical data on the students and as well as like the staff experiences and interactions with the student to determine what the appropriate action is needed for those particular students. Again, we have both resources within our school and community partners that we can partner with on that. As far as COGAT, as far as COGAT is concerned, again, COGAT's the cognitive abilities test. It's administered to all students in kindergarten, grades 2, 5, and 8. And it measures the students' reasoning skills with verbal, quantitative, and nonverbal questions. Again, the assessment focuses on the student's ability to display cognitive abilities that are associated with academic success. That data, in conjunction with our norm formative assessment and WEA and teacher input, is kind of used to identify which students are going to be identified by our school district as high ability. Students need to score a certain amount on COGAT and reach a certain percentile in NWEA in order to be considered for a high ability tag that we submit to the state. Over the next month, I will be meeting with our high ability teachers, the building high ability coordinators, and the building principals to identify those students based off of that data for each school. From there, we'll notify families of their child's status, at which point parents can either request to have their child removed or appeal if their child was not initially selected. Again, if families file an appeal, the high ability committee meets, considers the evidence, potentially retests the child, and then makes a ruling following that. We'll also be hosting a broad-based high ability committee to meet reviewing our program and make adjustments as necessary. So, for example, one thing that I would like to have that committee consider is considering how many days it takes to administer COGAT. And I know in our elementary it took probably around a week. So our middle school, it kind of dragged out because we were also administering this again in January, and we had a lot of interruptions to learning at that point. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. My concern is I would like to consider perhaps just administering the screener first to identify kids who need to be tested, and then we give the full test to those students as opposed to giving the full test to all of our students and taking up almost a week's worth or more of instructional time from our kids. Again, that's something I think should be at least considered, something that I'd like to bring up to that committee. If you want, I can share with you some like high level data on the composite scores of COGAT if you're interested. Take too long. Again, this is all very preliminary stuff. So our kindergarten, we had one student who met the criteria for high ability based off the COGAT composite score. 5 students would have been considered on a high ability watch, so kind of on the bubble. In second grade, we had 11 students meet that high ability criteria. 5 students, again, were on that watch. 5th grade, 19 students met the criteria for high ability, with, again, 5 students considered on a watch. And then 8th grade, 5 students met the high ability criteria, with 3 on the watch. And again, that data is based strictly on the COGAT composite, doesn't account for the NWA, doesn't account for teacher input on that. They're not final numbers. Again, the committee still meets to discuss that, kind of determine which students will be tagged in our district or not. That is what I have for COGAT and Review 360. Do you have any questions regarding that? I am not aware of any parents who were contacted with that. My understanding is that if a student popped up on that with an extremely elevated risk, again, other things were considered with that if the data was reviewed. And then I think I know for sure in the elementary, our counselor, social worker, Rachel Carter, touched base with those students. And she's, depending on, again, other factors outside of just this one assessment, is working with certain students in small groups to kind of help them work through whatever it is that they need help with. Yeah, I will follow up with the principals on that. Anything else? It's a state expectation, I believe. As far as like that's what's used. Now, again, schools can identify, beyond just COGAT, what qualifies a student for high ability. And we use, again, before it was performance series, now we currently are using NWEA. And like I said, we usually like to have data to triangulate that. So we also like to bring in teacher input as well, because again, they're with the kid most of the day. And so we think that that's a valuable piece of information to have when making those decisions.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Next on the agenda is department reports, and they should be in your packet. We had a report from Mr. Jaworski, Student Services and Transportation, Mr. Clark, Food Services, Mr. Prohl, and Technology, Mr. Gingrich. Anybody have any questions or comments on those reports? Okay. Next is financial report, and Dr. Glaze has all that information.
Always happy to report when revenue exceeds expenditures. So that we had a revenue 121,000 over what we had to pay out in payroll. So our cash balance in the education fund grew to $538,000. Now that's great, but we also have a 3-pay month coming up in April. So that is really just kind of preparing us for the 3-pay month. And so, again, we're happy that we've got that cash balance, but it will go down a bit with the 3-pay month. And then on the operation fund cash balance is 1.2 million. And then debt service is 916,000 with the rainy day still at 2.5 million. But in general, things are going pretty well.
Very good. Next on the agenda is other, and Dr. Glaze and Mr. Robertson.
I don't know where you want me to stand.
It's kind of an awkward setup, so whatever
Yeah,
you are
it
the
is.
most
I don't know if I'm
comfortable.
talking to you guys or if I'm talking to you guys. I'm talking to everybody. I didn't know where I fit in the agenda tonight, so I wasn't really, hadn't done my meditation breathing yet. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Mr. Robertson. My name is John Robertson. I'm an English teacher, Tifton High School graduate of 1998. I've been back teaching here for, I think, this is the 8th year in Tifton. I've been teaching 9 years total. And I helped participate with the PR committee, PR branding committee to come up with our new Blue Devil refresh. I'm here to show you guys what we've been up to for the last year. I know I'm really excited about it. I'm ready for it to be over because we put a lot of work into it. So I would say we put a lot of work into it. Originally, we were going to show this to you guys in August and have a big, fantastic, exciting launch day. But I don't know, some of you guys may or may not have been here. There was a lot going on in August. Definitely things that got in the way, so we got on the back burner. But here we are. We're ready to go. So we're going to talk about the Blue Devil refresh. Make sure it's a refresh. We are not changing anything. I don't want to take it back to 1992 or I think we're changing the mascot. We are refreshing the Blue Devil. There we go. First question is, why do a refresh? Why would we want to change up and more modernize our thing? I have a couple of examples I want to talk about today before we go into our Blue Devil first. The first one I want to talk about is Volkswagen. Okay. Every corporation rebrands at some point, and it's just about keeping modern, and it's just updating the imagery, it's keeping you up to date with the trends. I was still wearing things that were popular in 1920, as my Gatsby class knows. I would look really silly in today's time, although I might look kind of fancy, right? I'm not walking around 1920. So, Pepsi Cola, they updated all the time. So there's their 1989 logo, 1898 logo, all the way up to today. You see, they rebrand multiple times. Obviously, we don't do it every 3 years. We haven't done any rebranding all the time. But this one is the one I think is the most interesting. Some of you may or may not know that Volkswagen was started under 1930s Germany, which may or may not recognize why that logo is probably not good today in modern society. Based off of pretty bad imagery. But they modernized multiple times and keep the trend and fashion and what is popular. The Pacers, very fancy sports brand. We all know them. They've rebranded. They got their more old logos, more modern logos, and they keep 3 logos that they use at any given time. Now, I use the Pacers specifically because when we were considering our logo refresh, we went to the same company that did the Pacers refresh. They are the company that gave us our proposed logo. Here's the one I think is actually the most significant and relevant, the Tifton logo refresh, because this is Apple Computer's logo. It's pretty, it's neat, but it looks really old, right? Would you agree that this is a pretty old logo? Then they're more modernized. Everybody recognizes this. When you see this, you know that's Apple. You know exactly what it is. That's what we wanted to do with our Tifton logo. We wanted to update it, refresh it, have something that's ours, and make it a little more modern, make it, when you see it, you know that. The whole time we kind of came up, in our first few meetings, we came up with this phrase. I think it's really important. We've stuck with it. It's become like a motto as we move forward this year. As you want to respect the past, Tifton is rich with tradition. Tifton has a lot of awesome things that are important to us, and that's great. We want to hold on to those. We want to keep those significant importance to us, but we also need to embrace the future at the same time. We want to take the parts of it that we like and hold on to it, but don't be afraid to move forward and keep going with what's popular or not popular. What we need to do is give our students the best and keep the image of Tifton the best that it can be. So I want to give you, since we're going to embrace the past, respect the past, I have a little history lesson for you guys. I know you didn't know you were getting a history lesson, but you're getting a history lesson. I've gone through every yearbook I could find from 1901 until current looking for Blue Devils. It took me lots of time to do it. Students were very happy to help. What's that? Students were very excited to help. They really liked looking through all the stuff that we used to do in school. And honestly, I think in my classroom, it built some school spirit because they're like, oh my gosh, they used to do this. This is so cool. Why don't we do this now? And I was like, if I did that right now, would you participate? And how many of your friends would you get? So like they're starting to get excited about stuff in a time when it's kind of hard to get kids excited about school. So that was kind of cool. So this is the first Blue Devil I could find in a yearbook, 1953. He's a little scary. He gives a little Japanese samurai vibe to me, kind of that artwork imagery. But there it is, 1953. I found this guy from the mid-1960s. He's probably related to somebody in here because it is Tifton. I don't know who he is, but this guy's wearing a Blue Devil sweater. We stole that one from Duke. Now, as a North Carolina fan, that makes me want to throw up. Like, I love Tifton Blue Devils, but as a North Carolina fan my whole life, I don't like anything coming from Duke. But anyway, there you can see that's the 1966 Duke logo. That's where it came from. It really would pain me to go through the history of Duke Blue Devil logos and see how many of them we stole. So, any of you that have gone to school here for a long period of time or worked here for a long period of time, you have seen all of these at some point or another. The entire bottom row was stolen from Duke, a little baby devil. You can see it has a blue D. I have that one from an elementary school notebook when I was a kid. We've used all of these at some point. So there you go. Well, you probably recognize all of those. Am I correct?
No.
Anyway, the point of this one is prior to 2017, we didn't have a standardized logo. Anybody could grab any Blue Devil they wanted, throw it on whatever, and use it. So we've used all of them. Anybody who's here in the 90s will remember the infamous T1. There was a point in time when we were trying to not use the devil image on things, and this is what they came up with. I have to comment on it. So this one's the one that they chose in 2017. The Blue Devil here was, the story goes, they just went on the internet, searched Blue Devil, and picked one. And that's what happened. We've used this one since the 80s. I have an interesting story. I did research to figure out where it came from. It was actually literal clip art, not clip art like on a computer, like they literally mailed you clip art and you could copy it to things in the 80s, and that's what that is. Through my research, I can guarantee you at least 7 high schools in the country use this logo as their Blue Devil. Again, so this is not ours. This is just a Blue Devil that we've been using. And I think Tifton High School and Tifton Elementary School and Tifton Middle School, we're all great places to be, and we deserve our own Blue Devil that belongs to us. We need to stop borrowing and stealing from everybody else. We have our own Blue Devil. So that's what the committee has been working on. Hopefully you're all open-minded. So what we did was we went to Section 127, a professional branding company, and we asked them, will you make us a Blue Devil? I did not know this when we went to them. I went to them because they made several logos that I liked. They made Pacers' new logo. They've made Butler Esports logo. They've done all the floors for March Madness for like the last 5-10 years. But it's really interesting. We called them. They said they'd love to do it. The president of the company's mom graduated from Tifton High School. I thought that was cool. I thought that was a cool fact. She said, that's awesome. I want to do it. So I'm just going to, as quickly as I can, which with me is not very quickly, I'm going to get you guys some of what they did so you understand the reason why it looks the way it does and everything, and kind of get a feel for what they did. So we went to them and we said we need one single Blue Devil that will be used across the board, corporation-wide, for sports, for business, for athletic, for apparel, for signage. And then we gave them our ideas. And this is basically who our audience is. It's school system, students, staff, athletic department, local schools and townships, all the community members, as well as local businesses. We want them to be proud to have the new Blue Devil on and have it represented. These are just creative considerations. The most important thing I can tell you is we told them we want a Blue Devil that looks aggressive, because when you're doing athletics, we want them to look aggressive. But we don't want them to look evil. We do not want them to look evil. And they said that is a very fine line to walk, and they've struggled with it a little bit. But I think that what they came up with is honestly really good. We wanted it to look more modern, and then the rest of that's kind of like farther out branding goals. This side's just the logo. So then what they did for inspiration is they said, we recognize that you guys have not changed your logo in like 30 years. So it's probably going to be another 30 years before you get a new refresh. We want to take art and classic artwork, kind of timeless, not just give you something that fits in the current modern like imagery. If you look at logos that have come out in the last couple of years, there's a very specific style. And they didn't want to give us a 2020 style. They wanted something timeless. So the top left image comes from an oil can from the 1930s. The far right image does come from a beer can from the 1940s. These are things that like classic American imagery, classic art style that you might have seen driving down Route 66 in the 1900s type of thing. This is the art style that they use for inspiration. So the words are just kind of like they were trying to build the word mark, and they were looking for ways to do that. I want you guys to understand, it's really important to me, I guess, to be focused on the top left one. You kind of see that art style. They use that pretty heavily in the logo. This is our color chart. I don't know if I told all of you, but the first time I met with the company, they had inserted a tertiary color. They said, let's add green. And I said, that's not going to work. I told them, I said, I'm the most open-minded person probably on this whole committee, and there's absolutely no way I would know. So that got changed. They worked with us. They did a really good job. So these are the blues. I do want to point out that the last time we did this, everybody was so focused on we had color codes and this and that because the previous administration was very firm on you must use this blue exactly. You must use exactly. And it's very good to have a baseline. It's good for like to keep consistency in print and whatever to have these colors, but it's not like Ryan wants to go around and force your club's t-shirt. I don't think that's the thing at all. I just want to put that out there to ease anybody's mind with that concerned about this. There was a little bit of a tension. So here it is. Here is the old Blue Devil that we have, the one that we're used to. Now, before I change the slide and show you, I'm going to tell you that pretty much everyone we've shown this to in our focus groups has had a similar reaction. I have all the comments from our focus groups. When you see the new logo, you may be like, I don't know. You may say, I like it. Maybe you love it right off the bat. But generally speaking, every single person we've shown it to in a focus group, eventually, like after they sat and looked at it from it, they grew to like it. So it's going to be different because you've seen this for years. I'm going to show you guys the proposed new logo. This is the proposed new Tifton Blue. It's definitely more modern, definitely a little more aggressive. The first thing everybody says is I love the blue E. That's the first thing. As far as that, this is a much more modern Blue Devil logo. If you look at logos, temporary logos, I think that fits really well. You can definitely see the inspiration from the 1940s American artwork. And I'm really passionate. I fall in love with it. I want to give you guys a few more things. Originally, this was the color palette they gave us. They give you a suggested usage. The blue one is changing. We've had it changed to where it's like the black where it has a white outline. Because on the blue, it kind of feels muted and it sinks in and it doesn't pop very well. So on the blue, as you'll see in the next slide, we had them update that. And now on the blue, we use the white and it pops a little better. We asked them for a single color usage on both white and dark, and they gave us that. And so this is basically the suggested usage guide for all. Here's where I really think it starts to work for you. If you see it on apparel rather than just staring you in the face, it starts to look like a much more sport athletic logo. Like the more you see it, I really do. I think it's awesome. Here's the proposed hats. We're working on getting some apparel made with it so that we'll have launch here. We'll get that in a second. So when you look at them side by side, obviously we're not throwing away the old guy because there are still people that like him. One of the people in our focus group is here tonight. Said that like it's a lot like the Colts. We're going to have the Colts use their retro logo all the time, but still, when they do official business, they use the more modern. And that's kind of what our plan is. We're not throwing away any of the old Devil. We're just updating to the new, more modern ones. So when people see it, they'll know that it's up. The awesome part about it too is we get to copyright it. So like back in the '90s when we stole from Duke, they sent us a cease and desist letter. We had to stop using it. Right now we can tell people we can't use our. That's us. No one else in the world has the right to use it. And I think that's awesome. I think it's fantastic. So just to give you a little bit of information, in case you're feeling a little questionable about it, we did talk to staff students. We had equal mix of male, female. We have diversity as far as people that are in sports, people that are like academic, people who don't participate in anything. We said we want everyone represented. We have all age groups represented from every building, and we did our focus group. And these are the words they gave us. We said, describe what you see in this. If you could describe it in a couple of words, what would you say? And like I did a word cloud with all the words they used. So if they said ugly or scary, that would be up there, right? I copied and pasted everything in. The bigger it is, the more we saw it. So we got a lot of modern, we got a lot of aggressive, we got a lot of strong, professional. I asked them on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you feel about having this on your spirit wear? And like everybody gave us a 4. How well do you think it respects the past? Kind of in the middle, leaning slightly towards 5. We have one person say it, or if it didn't think it did at all, which is fair. 1 and on a 10. And I said, as a member of the community, how would you feel about having it? How proud would you be having this represent you as a member of the Blue community and walk forward? So we've made a proposal. If it passes, we're going to do a special launch edition shirts. We're going to have to send out a thing where everybody can order these. It'll be awesome. Like I'm really excited about it. We put the new branding, the phrase that we've been using, respect the past, embrace the future on there. High quality cotton. I don't have an order form for you yet because obviously I haven't passed, but if it does, we're going to do these. also working on hats, because we want people to get excited about it. We want to put stuff out there so people can be excited whenever they want to go across. And that leads us into our hashtag we're changing. Tifton Pride has been our hashtag for the last 5 or 6 years. And in our PR committee talks, we've said we need to think of something that really captures the fact that our children, we talk about children being in the future, but let's really embrace the kids that we're teaching right now. They're going to be the ones doing the jobs and making decisions in the future. So we need to raise them right. And so we want that to be inspired by Tifton, led by Tifton, and have our values built into the future. So Blue Future is kind of like what we want that to be. And that's it. So I hope you guys like it. I'm done.
All right. Thank
If
you,
you have
sir.
questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I feel like
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, we don't have any old business, so we'll move right along into new business. First item is consideration to approve the advertisement of additional appropriation in the Operation Fund and the Rainy Day Fund. In the winter of 2021, the Board of Trustees approved a transfer of $500,000 from the Rainy Day to the Operation Fund for greenhouse construction. In order to use those funds for the project, an additional appropriation is needed in the Operation Fund. In addition, Tifton Community School Corporation has incurred over $250,000 in related expenses for the upcoming 2022 through 2024 building project. These expenses are currently covered by our cash balance, but an additional appropriation and transfer of up to $250,000 from the Rainy Day Fund might be needed to cover expenses and maintain cash flow. In order to begin the process, the Board of Trustees need to approve the advertisement of additional appropriations for the April 12th, 2022 board meeting. Need a motion to allow that to occur. Need a motion in a second. A motion in a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Next item is consideration to approve naming rights contract for Tifton High School baseball scoreboard. Last month, the Board of Trustees approved the donation from VIP Mortgage, Mr. Rob Purvis, of $18,845 for a new THS baseball scoreboard. In your packet is an agreement stating VIP Mortgage will have the naming rights for the THS baseball scoreboard for the life of the scoreboard. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the agreement as written between VIP Mortgage and Tifton Community School Corporation for the naming rights of the THS baseball scoreboard. Need a motion and a second to approve that.
I move to approve the naming rights
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Next is consideration to approve the new mascot that we just witnessed on the screen months ago and the word mark. It is recommendation of the Branding and Public Relations Advisory Committee to update the Tifton Blue Devil. The Blue Devil has had many updates over the last 100 years. For the last 50 years, the Blue Devil has remained unchanged. The committee enlisted the assistance of Section 127 to help us develop our updated Blue Devil and accompanying word mark. The updated Blue Devil was reviewed by several focus groups throughout the school and community to overall positive responses, and Mr. Robertson provided an overview of the updated mascot. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the updated Blue Devil brand mark and word mark, as well as the terms of use to become the official mascot and trademark of Tifton Community Schools. Any discussion? If not, motion in a second. Motion in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is the approval of the bid for the 2022 outdoor and extracurricular co-curricular facilities improvement project. During our work session earlier this evening, R.L. Turner presented bids for the 2022 outdoor and extracurricular co-curricular improvement project. The bids were split into a base bid and a series of alternates. Our base bids came in lower than anticipated, and most of the alternates can be funded. We will need a motion to accept the base bid and specific alternates for the project. Discussion. Motion and a second. We're not to that one yet. This is the, I need a motion to approve the bid for the 2022 outdoor and extracurricular co-curricular.
I move to approve the bid for the 2022 outdoor extracurricular.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Next is approval of bids for the 2022 fertilizer and spraying. Bids for fertilization and spraying were advertised and received. One bid was received. Bliss Lawn Care has been used in the past with the quality of the work and product being very consistent. It is recommended that the board award the bid of fertilization and weed spraying for 1 year 2022 to Bliss Lawn Care Incorporated. Questions, comments, or motion and a second? Yes.
I move to approve the bid for the 2022 fertilizer and spraying.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next is consideration to approve property and casualty insurance brokerage and risk management consulting services. We have an upcoming renewal of our property and casualty insurance in April with our current provider, Assured Partners. In the past, we've had concerns about Assured Partners and their handling of a fuel tank spill in May of 2020. Therefore, a request for qualification was sent out on behalf of Tifton Community Schools seeking proposals to provide property and casualty insurance brokerage and risk management consulting services. 2 companies responded, Assured Partners, who is our current broker, and USI Insurance Services. Both companies have a good reputation among Indiana school corporations. Nationally, USI has a larger footprint than Assured Partners. USI is smaller than Assured Partners on the state level, but pride themselves on their service and customer experience. It is recommended the Board of Trustees approve USI Insurance Services as our new property and casualty broker and risk management consultant. Any questions or comments?
My only question is regarding the cost. They pretty much apples to apples.
Yeah, we won't get quotes
Okay. I understand.
until April,
Okay.
and so there probably will be very little change as far as the cost.
Any other questions? Need a motion and a second to approve.
I move to approve property and casualty insurance brokerage and risk management consulting.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Next is consideration to approve resolution regarding 1003 flexibility waiver. In our work session late last month, the Board of Trustees wished to explore some alternatives for teacher professional development days. One such alternative is a 1003 flexibility waiver. 1003 flexibility waiver would allow Tifton Community Schools to count instructional days in minutes versus hours. In order to apply for such a waiver, the Board of Trustees must pass a resolution regarding permission from the Indiana State Board of Education to consider the waiver. The attached resolution was in your packet. Anybody have any questions or comments on that? I entertain a motion in a second to approve. Motion in a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Next is other matters to come before the board. Does anyone have anything? Advisory committee meetings coming up are March the 14th, facilities and technology, and April the 18th is personnel.
Is that a 5:30 start?
Other things, so schedule of event, March 7th through the 11th is iRead assessment. Beginning March 9th is the beginning of the next third 9 weeks. Daylight savings time begins this Sunday on March the 13th. Tifton Academy will convene again on March the 16th. A greenhouse meeting also on March the 16th. And don't forget spring break, March the 25th through April 1st. And greenhouse project progress meeting will be on March the 30th. And the next meetings for the Tifton Community School Board will be next month on April the 12th. Next up on the agenda is comments from the community. First up is Courtney.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me a couple minutes here to speak to you. My name's Courtney. I have 2 children in Tifton Community Schools. Well, actually 1 now. My daughter has graduated last year, and my son is an 8th grader. So I just have a question for you, and I'm not sure. The research that I've done, I haven't seen anything on this. And what it's in regards to is a curriculum advisory committee consisting of parents, teachers, and obviously school board members, administration, so forth. So I guess my point here is that I'm requesting that the board determine if there is a level of interest in or establishing a committee for curriculum advisory consisting of parents, as well as all the other people that I mentioned before. I'm not sure if that's something that exists now or has been examined or explored in the past, but that's why I'm here tonight, to ask those questions. So that's really all I have, and like I said, I'd like to request that be explored. Thank you.
I will say that there is legislation that is still pending that about the curriculum advisory committees, but I will say that, and we are currently in a textbook adoption cycle where we do involve parents in the process, which again, our textbooks are often considered to be that curricular piece that we use instructionally. So in many ways, we're already doing that. And again, by having that parent input, as far as what that committee actually looks like from the legislation, we won't know that until they're done.
Right.
So,
I guess my question then would be, how is the parent group chosen for that textbook?
For the textbook adoption, a variety of different ways. Sometimes it can be teacher recommendation, or teachers would say, I'd get this parent and da 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 da. Sometimes it's just with what we've gone through with math. We would make some suggestions on people for those committees, and again, the ideal person is a parent that has a kid that is in that grade level or that school that will be, a part of that. And so that's the first criteria that we look for. And we have 2 to 3 parents on each of those committees. And so, and honestly, we've been very fortunate and had a lot of great feedback from those parents.
But there's not really a formalized.
There's not really a formalized, that's really been the way that textbook adoption has been done. It's essentially, there's not an appointment, I guess. Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm just saying, is there a call out? Is there a,
Right.
who wants to be involved?
Sure. Sure.
I mean, I've
Right.
never heard of that, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know of corporations that do that, but they might. I can't really answer that specifically.
Right.
But again, that's been a part of Indiana law for years, as far as having parents as part of the textbook adoption process.
So textbook adoption, as I guess my thought would be, does that go over and above just the textbooks to the curriculum itself? Or is it just the textbooks that's going to be used in those specific?
Well, and that's the issue with this law, is what does that mean? Then that's kind of what we're waiting to see.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I guess then I go back to my request that could it be determined if there's a level of interest in, or is there a discussion that could be established by the committee or about a committee by the board? I don't know. I don't know procedurally what I'm supposed to say here.
We've kind of tossed that around off and on about what we want to do with that. In the past, there were a few board members that were part of the textbook adoption committee, as well as teachers and whatever the subject matter was and grade level was. And they looked through the books and made a decision with some input from, I think they used TESO, the elementary EPO group, basically, for some of the parents, but
Nothing higher than that, than elementary school
just the
age.
teachers and board members, I think, in the past.
Okay.
And department heads.
So did I do what I was supposed to do?
You did,
Okay.
you did good.
All right, thank you.
That's perfect. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Courtney.
Next up is Mr. Rob Cochran. Okay, thank you. Next is Mrs. Laura Tom.
First, I just want to say real quick, since the last meeting, thank you for the updates and changing our COVID policy. Thank you very much. Second, I just kind of wanted to touch on the Tifton Academy, because when this initiative was first introduced and implemented, it was under the guise of parents learning the financial aspects of how a school runs and what is needed for it to financially thrive. So the perception, right or wrong, was that participation in that group was picked. And a lot of parents were wondering if it's just about finances, is participation in the group based on people that can help maybe facilitate or network how to get money into the school to make, to kind of brainstorm and think about how we can increase our financial flow? Or is it truly about parents learning and being a part of what's going on in the school structure piece of that? So I guess since the initiative has been resurrected, I guess I'm looking for clarification as to, under the new whatever standard that we're resurrecting it under, what does that look like? Is it still just finances? Is it a way to connect with parents to get them involved? Is there a way to maybe expand it to other parents that, like the grandparent raising the grandkid, or a parent of a child in special education? So I'm throwing that out there, and I look forward to hearing what exactly the redefining of that process looks like. Second-
I don't know if that has ever been the guise of finances of the school.
No, that's
Corporation.
exactly, I was at that meeting, and that's exactly what it was. It was, Weller had said that we're developing this group to come in and teach them about the finances of the school and how the finances in the school work. I remember that. So, and if it's changed, then, maybe an update would be, I would certainly welcome an update to that. Next is communication, and I'm so glad, Andrea, you asked the question based on those test results in mental health, if parents are notified, because as I heard the report, I flashed back to elementary, and I do remember that coming out and parents having to sign whether they want their kid to be tested or not. Fast forward, I have a child in middle school now, and I got that bell going off in my head because I saw no notification that it was even being done, or to even ask me if I wanted to opt out of it. So I look forward to knowing if parents were notified of those results, because,
It was sent out in Messenger.
all right, well, then I don't know what's wrong with the notification, but I don't know why. It seems to be hit or miss in certain circumstances. It's not just me, it's other parents in the community. I go back to the notification at the last meeting about the school bus issue and that kind of thing, and then they come and then they don't come, so I don't understand. And if that is the case, then if you haven't heard back from a parent whether they want to opt out or not, then I would think the school would reach out to that parent and say, look, do you want to opt out, as opposed to just making the judgment to go ahead and do it. And secondly, I just kind of want to ask, the goals at the beginning of the year, one of them was listed as communication, real quick. And I'm looking for that communication piece.
This is on your time is up.
Okay, well then perhaps next meeting we can talk about remediation with the planet. Thank you.
All right, next on the list is Aaron Conaway.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to make a statement before I start that I'm not against technology by any means. We adopt technology every day, so this isn't a play against technology, just a play of balance with technology. So I think we need to continue as a corporation to figure out a way to limit screens. The amount of screen time that the kids are on is through the roof. So just to continue to help with that and help keep our kids mentally healthy, to make sure that we can do the things that we need to do to limit screens. I mean, there's a lot of kids and a lot of ways that they're losing to write, and they're using voice text on their iPad and being able to write their paragraphs and write their papers without ever typing and or ever writing. So we just got to find a balance to try to limit screens, especially in the elementary, when elementary kids are really easy to find shortcuts, and there's a lot of shortcutting going on. Also, to add to screens is movies. This is how crazy it may sound, but a pretty crazy topic. Movies in every grade. The amount of time that I hear my kids and so many other kids that my kids run around with say that school is boring or easy because all we did was watch another movie is beyond ridiculous. And this is all grade levels, which is a corporate-wide problem, but especially in the middle school and the high school or worse. We want to figure out why we are below average in some of the education tests that we do in many areas. So this is a place to tackle, to make a significant impact. The amount of unrelevant movies needs to stop really soon. I feel like there needs to be some sort of pull and some sort of understanding or policy or some sort of standard about the amount of movies that a teacher should be able to give their class within a 9-week period. There's too many teachers that are using a high percentage of movies to do their teaching, and this isn't just regular classes. This is also honors classes and AP classes. So losing interest. Everyone likes movies, but when it's just another movie and school's pretty boring and they're not being challenged, we're not being as effective as we should be. I also feel like I'm not sure how the review process is for teachers, but there's been lots of conversations within the kids that I feel like students should have a voice, and there should be some sort of 360 review on teachers and their impact. I think you'll be able to find some concerning trends from multiple students over multiple years would need to be addressed, but I also think you'll find fantastic positive comments regarding specific teachers and specific things on those reviews that need reinforced and increased compensation. So my time's up.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next on the list is Allison Ripperger.
I'll make it quick. You guys see me every month. On the last new item that you approved has to do with switching the hours to incorporate our PD time. April addressed the board or the bus drivers earlier this evening and said that those are the people that know what's going in our buildings. So I consider to ask the teachers what's going inside of our buildings when you start to look at how the PD time will change and how our calendar would change because of the PD time. You have several teachers sitting behind me who are here month after month who would encourage you to keep the Friday start date. If you survey your teachers, you are going to hear it. We changed it 2 or 3 years ago. And I know Mr. Plummer was on the board and April was on the board. And guess what? The next year we changed right back to that Friday start. So as you are looking at the calendar over this next month, please talk to your teachers and let's not repeat the past. This Friday start has been working and we change it and we go back to it. So I just encourage you, talk to your teachers. They're the ones that are living it in their building each day. Thank you.
And next is Luanne Millet. All right. Before we adjourn, is there anything?
Yeah, that would be a really great thing. Yes, we do have stickers for anyone who would like to have one with our new mascot and word mark. So if you have an interest, we'll be glad to leave it.
All right. That's the last thing on our agenda. Does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? Don't run off because we have an executive session.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? All right, thank you.